I did a shooting. I did a freeway shooting. I was coming off the roundabout. Dudes were in the car throwing up gang signs. Immediately, I had that voice in me that was like, they think I'm a B. Man, forget that. I'm going to show them what's up. And I started shooting them. A 10-second decision cost me basically 10 years of my life. Yeah, so I was looking at Pelican Bay. I was looking at level 4 yards, Ironwood State Prison, places like that as university for me. But my mom, she said something that really unlocked everything. She said, sin doesn't just come out of anywhere. People try to solve the behavioral aspect. But behavior comes from thoughts, which bleeds into your heart, and then it affects behavior. Your thoughts tell you that you're never gonna change, and your thoughts tell you you're gonna go to hell. But the word of God that never changes tells you that you're righteous, perfect, and holy. Which one are you gonna trust today? But I just got one question, Pastor. What's gonna stop me from sinning however I want now that I could just be like, yo, I'm perfect. I'm gonna sin however I want, you know? And then he said,
this is The Deep End with Lecrae.
Y'all know what it is, man. We back. And listen, we always, on the deep end, we jump off the deep end. I've had a lot of interviews with a lot of amazing people. This is probably one of my favorite. I've been anticipating spending time letting the world know about this guy's story. If you don't know, you probably been under a rock because, you know what I'm saying, he been doing his thing, man. He pops up everywhere, even on his IG lives, just doing Bible studies and the whole nine. But this guy, my guy right here, Johnny, Johnny Chang is, a leader, a thinker, a processor. He's been through a lot, and his story is crazy. I think it will blow your mind to hear what he's come from to where he's at now. So rock with us. It's going to be good. Man, welcome, brother.
Appreciate you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. We've been plotting this for a minute.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad we finally was able to get here and do it.
Yeah.
So, it's funny how I want to talk about how I first, got introduced to you. You know what I'm saying? So, spending a lot of time in Southern Cali. I just love all things California. Obviously, like the culture that I come from, and being raised in gang culture, being raised in uncles going in and out of prison, the whole nine. So I'm always watching stuff along those lines because I feel like that's who the Lord has called me to in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
And so I watch this channel all the time, and this guy, he interviews people generally on Skid Row, but he'll also talk to gang members, he'll talk to drug dealers and the whole nine.
Yeah.
And then I saw your story pop up, and I was just like, oh, let me watch it. So, I'll just be watching. I'm watching you tell your story, and you start weaving stuff in the story, and I'm like, yo, this man, you talking about prison, you talking about gang, you talking about shootings and all kinds of stuff, but then you start weaving in like little nuggets of truth, and I was like, is this dude a believer? Is this dude a Christian? And by the end of the interview, I was like blown away because I was like, yo, this dude like lived this life and now found Jesus, and you was solid. You was bow, hitting with so much truth, but you did it in such a incredible way. Amen. That I felt like anybody could have heard it who had ears to listen, man. Thanks, so, yeah, like, was that your first time telling a story like that, or had you been doing that?
So I do prison ministry, so I kind of season when it comes to that. But that's my first time being in front of a camera, like with the audience that big. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, prior to that, I would go to churches and stuff before I was famous or internet famous. Right? But yeah, I would just tell my story, bro, because that's my testimony.
Yeah, and people resonate with your story. First, it's the shock factor, I'm sure, for a lot of folks.
Right.
But do you feel like just off of looks alone, I think people be like, this dude is in love with Jesus? Like, you know what I'm saying? So, but you didn't grow up in the church or anything like that. No. So, right. So you grew up, Southern California, LA area.
Yeah.
Not a Christian, not in a Christian household. At all. Yeah. And I don't want to tell you a whole story, but I'm just like, just throwing some haymakers up so you can grab them and go where you want to go. But from what I understand, raised in a Buddhist family, dysfunctional you know, Pops was an alcoholic, dealing with a lot of chaos. So you, like a lot of us, felt like isolated, and the street said, "Come here, we'll embrace you."
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was kind of the path that you took. Yes. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. So how did that come about that you just got wrapped up in the streets? Because we typically don't. The media portrays the Asian community as like, you know, success and quiet and you know, not thugging.
Yeah.
But you in the streets.
Right.
How did that happen?
So I was from an area predominantly where it was like 50% Mexican and 50% Asian.
Okay.
Specifically Chinese and Vietnamese. So we were people who just were influenced by Mexicans. We had the Chola, the Cortezes. I'm still rocking them today. You know what I'm saying? Like we had the bandanas and we flew colors and all that. So we just were influenced by that. And I grew up in project housing right alongside the Mexicans, right? I grew up in Ramona Gardens, East LA. So, I mean, you kind of just fell into it because you know, my father was an abusive alcoholic father, and he didn't make a home for me to be safe in. So I would go out to the streets and I would see people. Back in the day, it was like the Fast and Furious days. They had the Honda Civics and the Acura and Integras, and they had a lot of money. So they had money, power, wealth, everything, women. So we saw that growing up, and we're like, you know what? I'm not going to school. I can't go home because I'm going to get beat. So I'm just going to hang out in the streets as long as I can. And that was kind of like, as twisted as it was our safe haven. It was a safe place for me. Yeah. So I just got in the mix with my neighborhood, a huge Chinese gang. We had ties to the mafia, you know, Chinese mafia and all that. So, we just did all the grunt work for them. And, you know, I joined at the age of 12 years old and ended up going to prison for 13 years of my life. Got out and basically got saved. What's going on, y'all? So many of you have been watching episodes and trying to figure out how you can stay more connected, figure out what's going on. What do we do outside of this? Well, let me tell you, you're going to click the link below because that's going to give you access to everything you need to know coming straight to your inbox, and it is free. Backtrack a little bit. You get wrapped up in this you know, Chinese gang in your community. Like, I know how kids get courted on to like a lot of the black gangs, the Bloods, the Crips, and so on and so forth. Sure. You know, me as a kid, it was like just the neighborhood I lived in, and then eventually it was like Cass was like, and I was a hangbanger. I wasn't a gangbanger, a hangbanger. You know what I'm saying? It's where all your homies gangbang, and you like, yeah, I'm with you until it start getting crazy. You know what I'm saying? But I knew how the process was of getting courted on to the hood and becoming a part of it. But is it similar in the Asian community? Or how was that for you? Yes, it's really similar. I mean, they're called put-ons. You know, they beat you up for a certain amount of minutes, certain amount of people. I was 12 when I got put on, and I had to fight like 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds. I had to fight 18-year-olds. So, you know, they do it because it's when they court you, they want to see if you're tough. They want to see if you can hang, basically. Yeah. If you'll snitch, if you'll, you know, because you're going to get into that lifestyle where you're going to run into enemies and ops and stuff like that. So, for me, it was fighting, and I was all busted up, I remember. And you're not winning, no put-ons, basically, right? But the fact that you just endure it, basically, is what they do. Very similar to blacks, very similar to essays, Mexicans. So it's the same thing. And then after that, you got to put in work on top of that. Yeah. So as you mentioned, there's people who are gang members, and then there's gang bangers, right? So gang members are ones who bring money to the neighborhood, you know, especially for Asians. You got to bring money. It's a big thing. So you earn respect either by bringing money, and then there's gang bangers. Because I was poor, I didn't have means to bring money, so I was putting in all the grunt work. I was raising my hand, volunteering for the shootings and carrying things and all that stuff. And being young, you know, in California system, you can't really, even if you kill somebody at that time, you could only do juvenile life, which is 25 years, and you'll get out. So, I mean, even if they were using us basically in that way, right, as foot soldiers, I was one of those. So, yeah. So you said 12, bro. Yeah. Like, my son is 12. He plays video games and like Rubik's Cubes and stuff like that, man. Like, to imagine him raising his hand to go on a mission to go shoot somebody. Like, what created that, like mindset for you? Did you know what you were getting into, or you
you woke up one day, you were in the back of a car, and it was like, oh, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think because I didn't have that family, where my father said I love you. I never heard him say I love you. My mom, same thing. Asians are very stereotypical in this way, where they don't say I love you, right? They show you more through action rather than word. And him being an alcoholic, my mom being Buddhist, very submissive, he ran the house. So I just couldn't, I never felt loved. And I felt like, you know what, I got to look for family. So when I seen these people, the first thing that they did was they gave me $100. And, at 12 years old, bro, $100 is like $1,000, right? And so I was like, dang, they love me. They feed me, they clothe me, they back me up. They gave me my first strap. Like, I was just like, okay, so they're trying to protect me. They're providing for me. So it was just like, okay, these are dudes who, even if I die, like, it would be an honor to like die for these people. So from a young age, that was already ingrained inside of my brain. And after that, you got to put in work. It's like, hey, bro, we take care of you. Now you got to take care of some stuff for us. And it was just the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did my first shooting at 12. 12 was a pivotal point for me because yes, I was a kid, but I was always kind of a little bit bigger. So I looked like I was maybe 15. Yeah. So, and I was just living that lifestyle. And yeah, I found myself just getting into the mix of things naturally because as you're around those people, right? You hang around a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. So being around gang members, you're going to put in work. You have to. There's going to be a time where you get pressed. There's going to be a time where you get put to the test. And that's just what was happening. And yeah, I didn't think. I was very impulsive. And like most kids are, they feel something, then they do it. So for me, it was an extreme of like, okay, I'm going to do everything. And I kind of understood because I didn't have love. The more crazier stuff that I did, I could see a correlation between how much more respect I was getting. So I seen like, okay, if I do a shooting, people are gonna look at me and go, oh, that's crazy. Yeah. And that's how I earned my name. They call me ill, which is like mentally ill, because I'll go from 0 to 100 back to 0 and be calm again. So people be like, yo, that's crazy. So,
yeah, you were groomed
right.
in a lot of ways, right? Like you, and I feel like whether it's a pimp who finds women who come from these battered backgrounds. Right. It's like, oh, you're the perfect candidate to be this. I feel like in a lot of ways, it's the kids who really have nothing to lose. There's nothing at home that's going to give them what they're getting out here. So in a sense, they're just groomed. It's like, and I understood that as a kid, I distinctly remember standing on a street corner and the older gang members came by. They said, man, the rivals are coming through shooting. I'm 12, 13. They said, y'all need to start shooting back. And in my mind, see, I had a loving mother. Right. You know what I'm saying? Now, my father was on some weird stuff. I had aunties who cared about me. And in my mind, they always told me, you could be this or you could be that. So there was something in my mind that said, I might have a chance. Right. But there was other kids around me who were like, this chance, my only chance is the respect of these guys. Sheesh. So you fell into that pattern. Yeah. That becomes who you are. Then you get arrested. Like you end up you go to YA Youth Authority, right? California Youth Authority, which is not like, I've been a juvenile in certain cities. It's not California Youth Authority, for people who don't know, like what they call it gladiator school, right? Like, what is that? What was it like?
Yeah, it was crazy. You're housed with people from 10 years old all the way to like 17, even 18-year-olds. And yeah, it's crazy. I seen rapes, I seen murders in there, I seen crazy riots. I mean, and these are kids doing things to other kids, youth doing it to youth. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely not juvenile hall. Yeah. Juvenile hall is more like fights and people go home and stuff. YA is essentially the worst of the worst. And the neighborhood that I was from, we had gang injunctions. We got RICO'd. So of course people are like, this. When I went on trial, it was my first offense. And they were like, well, he's a childhood assassin. They done groomed him to do this crazy stuff. They brought up rap sheets of my OGs who are doing life without parole. And so the judge just threw the book at us and was like, yo, no, you're going to go to YA. Not only that, you're going to do the maximum sentence. And it was just crazy.
So what's the max sentence for a 12-year-old?
So for me, it was 4 years, but you're only supposed to do half, right?
Right.
So, but I ended up doing the whole. If you go to YA and you really go to YA and you're not, you're not like, I guess, if you're really fighting and you go to actual like YTS, Nellis, and places like that, you're fighting every day, bro.
Yeah.
From the age of 12 to like 16, I was in like 40 plus fights. So you're getting your level Bs, which is your write-ups. You are not going home in halftime. There's just no way. Nobody who goes to YA, they don't do that half. So they do the full sentence.
So put us in the mindset of a 12-year-old entering in this building.
I was shaking, bro. Like I'm not gonna lie, like because the OGs had told me, like, bro, YA is something different. If you go there, you represent something bigger than yourself, which is your neighborhood, and you can't let people take anything from you, shoes, whatever. And so I was like, okay, like it is what it is, right? So we go in there. As soon as you see an enemy, you guys got to fight. As soon as you feel disrespected, there's like a 2-second takeoff rule where it's like you feel something, you just take off on them. So it was grooming this mindset in me and planting this mindset and developing a mindset of you do whatever you want to do, and anybody who disrespects you, you take them out. So there was no speaking, there was no communication.
Yeah.
And I was just learning that when you don't communicate, things die, relationships die, everything. So I just didn't know how to communicate really well. And violence is a universal language, right? So I just learned to be more violent.
So your brain isn't even fully developed.
Right.
Your frontal lobe isn't closed.
Right.
Your sense of morality hasn't even been established. And you're told when you get in here, it's kill or be killed. So when you walk through those doors, like what's the first interaction you have that opened your eyes like, oh shoot, this is real?
Yeah. So in my neighborhood, there wasn't a lot of like blacks, right?
Okay.
So I'm from the San Gabriel Valley, east side of LA, basically, and mainly Mexicans and Asian. So when I seen some black dude, I remember he was from, I think he was from Rolling 60s, right? So Nipsey Hussle's hood, and he was like, he kind of seen me and he's like, you got to go with your people, basically. And I said, my people, what you mean? So I had to go with the Asians, which they called the Asian pride, right? And so this dude from the respected blacks, basically, he was telling me, you got to go over here. And I was kind of shocked because I was like, yo, like, again, it was just culture shock as soon as I walked in. And then when I went to the Asian side, some homies from Black Dragon and all these different gangs, they were asking me, you know, where you from? And, you know, and you got to like explain. And then right then and there, you pretty much got to line it up. So it's like, okay, so this dude don't like you. He's from your enemy hood. So the first night I went in there and I was at SRCC, which is Southern Reception. And right there, you had to fight. And right there, they told you, if you fight, you're going to go to Nellis, right, which is the worst of the worst at that time. And they closed it down, obviously. There was all kinds of investigations and stuff. But, yeah, so I fought, and then kind of got my respect after that, like after the fourth fight. People are like, okay, he's not going to back down. So after that, you start to program, and then they lace you down. Okay, so this is what you got to do, et cetera, et cetera. But again, these are kids leading kids. Yeah. So they're just, you know, you were just hearing different things, right? Like some people would say you can steal. Some people say you can't steal. It was just a bunch of just, you know, PTSD, a bunch of confusion. And you're like, you know what? I'm just going to navigate it the best way that I can. Yeah. And the first thing that one of the homies told me was, just forget about your family, because when you come in here, bro, you're gonna be a monster. Like just that's it for you. You're gonna end up in the system, in the prison pipeline. Basically, you're gonna go to prison, and you're gonna be a monster. And I was like, dang.
They told you embrace this.
Yeah. And I was 12. Yeah.
So you're 12, an age where it's like, man, you hitting puberty. You're supposed to start liking girls. You're supposed to like be riding bikes and doing all kinds of other stuff, and it's like you on missions and locked up. Did you see, and I want to talk about this down the line as well when we start talking about the penitentiary and prison, but did you see kids who were fighting to be kids, like trying to, like, I want to cry, but I can't cry, or I want my mommy, but did you see that go down?
Yeah. I did see it. Usually for people who would come in, like the newcomers. Yeah. But as soon as they cried and things like that, they were labeled pretty much like that. So
PC'd up, get them out of here.
Pretty much, they'll roll them off. So like, or they take advantage of them. You know, I've seen, I mean, it's heinous things. I've seen kids who are like that, and then they go to like the COs for like father figure stuff, right? Or mother figure stuff. And in the end, like the COs, which is why a lot of these YAs are closed, is they will end up raping them. They'll do crazy stuff like that. Yeah, so it's just predatory, bro. Like that environment was just straight up predatory. Like
to be, and again, like, man, it's a testament to how powerful God is, because people don't see how powerful redemption is when they just take it for granted. But then there's stories like ours, like yours, where it's like, nah, God is real. Because this was crazy. And for you to be on this side of it, working for the kingdom, is wild.
Amen.
So when you're in there, you're not getting any kind of guidance, wisdom, nothing good. You're learning how to be a better criminal, I'm assuming.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 4 years goes by. When you come out, what are you like?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. And
Ill.
Basically, mentally ill. And just people are, you start to, I felt like a dog. I didn't even feel like I was a person. Like I would see somebody, and if they look like me or if they look like a gang member, I would just immediately like start to growl, bro, inside,
Word.
Like, I'll be like, man, I'm like, this guy thinks he's crazy. Let me, and you come with that mindset that everybody's an enemy, including your homies too, believe it or not. And so a lot of the OGs actually had to check me, because I had to calm down. I was crazy. I was like, man, I'll do this. Don't call me the B word. Don't, I was just like going crazy like that. And so I only made it 67 days. I made it 2 months and a week. And then I did a shooting. I did a freeway shooting. And, they charged me with 2 counts of assault with deadly weapon. Originally it was attempted.
Hold on, time out, bro. Because you and I may know people who've done a freeway shooting. Yeah. You are one of the people. Yeah. For the average listener out there, they like, how does one even get into a situation like that?
Yeah.
So like, you get angry enough to load up and just jump in the car, and like, what happens?
Yeah. So I was actually just driving, normal day in the SUV.
Yeah.
I was on the 60 freeway, and I was coming off the roundabout, and some dudes were in the car, and they were just dogging me out. They were stacking, which is throwing up gang signs. And I was like, what? They think I'm like, like immediately I had that voice in me that was like, they think I'm a B. I'm man, forget that. I'm gonna show them what's up. So I was always clutching. I always had a gun on me. So I shot a 9mm, and I started shooting them, just off of some stupid stuff like that. A 10-second decision cost me basically 10 years of my life. Yeah. So I just realized, like, dang, I was crazy like that. I just needed my respect. And that was something that, again, was cultivated because my father had disrespected me so much. My mother as well didn't support me. The homies respected me, but then would say, man, just because you've been in YA, man, wait till you make it to the pen. So that ingrained something in me. Words have power, bro. Yeah. And they were like, I was looking at Pelican Bay. I was looking at level 4 yards, Ironwood State Prison, places like that. As university for me. I didn't want to go to Harvard. I don't want to go. I wanted to get to the big dogs so that people could be like, "Yo, this dude's respected."
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because all the young homies, even us, when the big homies would get out of prison, we'd all respect them. Like, dang, these dudes went to some crazy places.
Yeah.
So for me, respect was a big thing. And when you're over here stacking and throwing gang signs and making like little eye stuff, and that's when I was like, all right, you're gonna die.
I'm gonna show you. Right. And what's funny is you say that. So I remember, man, like I'm 35 years old in a house with kids, and I'm sitting there and I'm feeling less of a man, and I'm processing, why do I not feel like a man? I got a career, I got kids, and it was through therapy. It's because I never went to prison. Because I was raised that this is a part of manhood, and you never graduated. You found Jesus and went a whole nother route.
Yeah.
And so all my uncles been to prison. All the men in my family been to prison. I didn't go. And so I can only imagine, like people can't grasp what you're saying right now, but it's like, that's a rite of passage. I tell people all the time, there's values and there's ideals. College is an ideal.
Right.
But for our community, it's not a value. True. It's like, graduating high school, it's ideal. It's not a value.
Right.
But respect, that's a value.
Yes.
So you went out for your respect on the highway. How did you get caught?
So I actually took my dad's car, and which is, this is where people don't think. Right. Yeah. People who end up in prison, all of them are always impulsive people. Yeah. So I was very impulsive. And that's why the recidivism rate is so crazy.
Yeah.
Because you don't think, you just all emotion, right? So very emotional person back then, very sensitive. And I just shot, and then I was like, I'll deal with that afterwards. So they had actually sent like a warrant, they had, and my dad's like, what? So he didn't know, and he went there and we figured out it was, so I had to actually end up going on the run for a little bit. But even then, I got caught eventually in San Bernardino. And it was crazy, bro.
What are your parents thinking during this whole time period?
They didn't know. They knew I was a gang member, but at 12 years old was when they found out. So when the detectives came and they said he was involved in this robbery and kidnapping and all that, they were blown away. Like, what? He's 12.
Yeah.
Like, what you talking about? Yeah, he dresses like a gang member. But back in our day, everybody from the nerds and all that, the belts with the initial, the Cortez, his high, so all that. So it was just,
y'all was essayed out. If y'all had the high socks.
Super essayed out, bro. But so they were shocked, bro. Yeah.
So when you got arrested the second time, where did you go?
So I ended up going to Lancaster for reception.
Okay.
And then after that, they transferred me to Ironwood State Prison. So I went to ISP right there where Blythe is and Indio and all that. So I did most of the time there. And then the governor came into power, and Arnold and he did the prison reform, which is he made basically California a lifer prison, meaning anyone who has life can stay, but everybody else got to get shipped out. So I did some time in Tutwiler, Mississippi.
Wow.
Yeah, I was in Mississippi.
That's a whole nother world.
Yeah, it was hot out there. It was crazy. The COs out there were like glorified Walmart security guards. Like, they wasn't ready. They weren't cut out for it, bro. There was riots out there. It was nuts. And then, Arizona and just different places, Oklahoma, CCA, and different places like that.
Yeah.
But basically, came back to paroled out of CRC Norco, right there near Corona. So, I did collectively, YA time and everything, 13 and 6 months, basically.
Okay, so while you're in prison, you are, you still have this mindset. You still got this mentality. You're becoming more and more hardened, right? Obviously, are you learning anything, or do you feel like you're maturing in any kind of way as a man?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I had a cellie who was Muslim, Sunni Islam, and Sunni Muslim, and he was real chill, bro. He was in there for murder. They gave him life, but he was like at the tail end of his life sentence where he was going up to the board and he was about to parole, and so he kind of led me. He said, bro, you gotta, read some books, bro. You gotta do something. You have like a 6th grade education, bro. You gotta do something. So I actually got my GED in there because of him. Okay. Some of the older homies too from my neighborhood were in there. When you go to the prison yards, my gang is on every yard, right? We're pretty big. So so the older homies, were like, hey, bro, you got to think for yourself. You got a brain. So they made me read. I read a little bit on Buddhism, try to get back to my roots. And then I actually completely converted to Islam, to Muslim.
Wow.
For 3 years in prison. And that was my imam, basically. The dude, my cellie, we were praying every day. We were fasting. We were reading the Quran. We had to read the Bible too, because if you're a real Muslim, you have to actually go back to the books before your book, which is the Injil, they call it, which is the New Testament, and the Torah, which is the Old Testament, right?
Yeah. So, being that you grew up Buddhist, you practice Islam for a season. Now, as a follower of Christ, like, there's a lot of people who are studying religions and trying to figure stuff out. You had a lot of time to sit and study. Yeah. What would you say? What would you say to some of those individuals who are trying to process what's this and what's that, and understand the difference between them all, or why it can't just be one? Or how would you talk to them?
So the first thing is every religion teaches you to do well. That's undeniable. But Christianity, for me, was the only religion that taught you can't do it without Jesus. You're imperfect. You can't get yourself out of depression. You've tried. There's therapy, but there's only maintenance mode. There's no overcoming. Jesus says, I've overcome everything, the world, right? So these problems, depression, loneliness, are issues of the world. Yeah. So if you think about it, that's what it did. What did it for me was trusting the word of God above our thoughts, trusting that Jesus will do everything for you. That's number one. Number two, when you read the Bible, you cannot read it to understand the Bible, because we as human beings are naturally flawed. What you have to do is you have to read it to accept. So it's not about understanding, it's about acceptance, right? Just like you teach a kid to do chores, you're not trying, you're actually teaching the silver lining, which is responsibility, discipline. But if you try to explain it to the kid, hey, this is why you need to watch this, is because you'll be disciplined, they're not going to understand it.
Yeah.
They have to learn to accept. And as they get older, there's a timing where they're going to say, thank you, Mom, I get what you were trying to teach me X amount of years ago. Likewise, in God's timing, when we just read, we're then able to see, okay, God's going to just drop that nugget in you when he feels your heart is ready for that seed and ready for that nugget.
That's good.
So yeah, that's what I teach people. And that's how I was able to get through the Bible from front to back, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Coney Greek 23 times. So it's not about, understanding. You can't understand it. Our brain is finite, limited. God is infinite. But if you just learn to accept him, then he'll actually start pouring wisdom into you. And then you'll remain humble. Because a lot of these people, apologetics, I'm sorry to say, are puffed up. Oh, I know this. Did you know? You didn't know about that. But that does nothing for the gospel. That just makes people feel like, okay, you're holier than thou. So what? You know what I'm saying? So we're here to edify. We're not here to divide. So
I think a lot of people they discredit the miracle of God illuminating our hearts and our minds to truth. We just reading, because I've read certain verses a million times, but it was just one day I read it and it was like, pow. And I was like, yo, I never. So I totally agree with you on that, man. You got to let the Spirit do what he does.
Amen. I read the Bible too, front to back 2 times in prison. So it's a lot of reading, and I started developing these skills to articulate and but still, bro, I had emptiness in my heart. That was the one thing that I could never get rid of. Was this just hole in my heart. And that was something that I would talk to him about. And he was like, bro, that's just part of life. Like, you're always gonna feel that because you got the flesh. It's weak, and the enemy plays with that. But that didn't really satisfy why I was feeling that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but I did grow. I went to anger management, did counseling, all that.
You was trying to fix yourself with external means,
right? And
even religion, which people will say, is spiritual, but your spirit is still dead.
Right.
You're just adding on things to make you feel better. I'm curious, how did your gang feel about you becoming a Muslim?
They thought it was weird.
Okay.
Yeah, they keep it real. They were like, yo, what's wrong with you, Johnny? Because the way that I was, so the first 2 years in prison, I didn't program correctly. And that means, like, I didn't know how. I was still tripping, in prison, in California at least, there's no gangs. Like, yes, you're in your gang, but you represent your race more than your gang. It's called a car, right? So you got the Southern Mexicans, you got the blacks, you got Bloods and Crips, but even they got to unite when it comes to, race politics, right? Yeah. So I'm over here seeing, Asian boys and these different hoods that we beefing with. There's bloodshed, 20, 30 years of war. And I now got to be celled up with them and homies. And I just came from YA, which was gangbanging era. No race, no nothing. You just fighting people. So I had to learn, like, bro, this dude shot at my homie. Like, how am I not gonna get him? I'm right here. So I had to kind of let that all die and just be united. And that was tough for me. So I was, just getting write-ups. I was in the hole. I was doing all kinds of stupid stuff and getting, getting more time added, basically. So it was just tough for me. And then I went from that to just calling my homies like, hey, yo, I'm Muslim now and it's about peace. So they were just like, yo, you tripping for real, bro. You need to get off that. Whatever you doing in there, that pruno, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. You got to chill, bro. And I'm just like, man, I'm just trying to be peaceful. But that's the one thing that they noticed was like, yo, Johnny's changing. And it started from prison.
You were searching,
right?
Sounds like you were searching. What do you think sparked the search? Like, were you feeling depressed? Were you feeling empty? What was going on with you when you was locked up?
Yeah, I would I think I was okay, like I said, until I went there and I was like, you know what? Like, why we gotta be cool with these people? Like, why I gotta, like, dang, I lived all my life disrespecting authority. I didn't want people to tell me what to do. I hated my dad. I hated everybody. Now I'm in here and I still got somebody above me telling me to do something. The dudes who got the keys to the yard, and they're like, bro, we can't do that. There's no one-on-ones in here. And I'm like, what? We can't catch a fade in here? No, you can't. You move as a unit. So it's like you got to dead all that. And I'm like, dang. So I started to see like people back, like what I stood for, even at that young of an age, was kind of flipped on its head. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, I thought it was my neighborhood against the world, like us versus everybody. That wasn't true. I seen homies being cool with each other. Bro, he done shot and killed your homie, and you're like over here breaking spread with him. And you know, it's like, what's going on here? So right then I did start feeling empty. I was like, bro, like,
what is the point of anything?
Exactly. Did I for real do all this just to do this? Like, this is stupid. And I'm like, okay, nah, maybe I'm tripping. So I had that internal conflict. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe it's just because I'm in prison. Maybe I'm judging. I need to chill. I don't know. You know, I got to learn a little bit more. And then I just started seeing crazy stuff, bro. Like favoritism. I started seeing like, yo, how come he could do this, but this dude can't do that? Like, and I was just like, yo, if we're all one car and one race, where's the respect and all of that? You know, where's the hierarchy and all that? So it was just, it was wild. And from then on, I was like, yeah, I felt empty. I would have those thoughts at night where suicidal thoughts, you know, I contemplated that crazy. And yeah, I was just empty, bro. I was empty.
What is like for a lot of people, you know, and a lot of times because incarcerated folks, they're not allowed to show emotions, right? Because it's detrimental to your life. And also because that's the culture. But what don't people know about what the emotional and mental state of folks who are incarcerated are dealing with? What does the regular world not know?
The fact that, so a lot of people think like people wanted to do those things. But when you go to prison, you carry at least for the first like weeks, you carry your C file, your criminal file, your paperwork, as we call it. And there's a reason for that, is because people check paperwork, right? But it's also because you don't speak about the things that you did. Like a real gangster, honestly, even mafia people who have sat down with Michael Francis, people like that, they don't like talking about the stuff that they did because it actually haunts them, right? So what you see portrayed in the media is not it. A real gangster is not gonna sit there and go, yeah, I done smoked this dude and did it, like, because that's the stuff that hurts you. Just like an addict wouldn't be like, yo, I hit the pipe today and I did, you understand? They try to like cover all of that. But when you're glorifying that, actually, we know that it's not, you didn't really live that life, because if you really did, no one's proud of robbing somebody and, you know, shooting somebody where it haunts you in your dreams, bro. Like that's happened to me, you know? Then you got demons in your dreams pulling you by the ankles type stuff. Like, it's not, if anyone's who's committed a murder and done things like that, they don't talk about stuff like that, bro. That's not something to boast about, right? So, but a lot of people are misinformed when they think, well, you're in there and you deserve that, which we do, right? We deserve, but at the same time, they think we're in there just like glorifying it all. But actually in prison, at least in California, is very respectful. I learned to be more respectful in prison because there's that mutual aggression. Everybody's killing there. So it's like, if you don't say excuse me when you walk by somebody, it could cause a race riot. If you don't put, you know, if you put your coffee cup or you use this microwave that belongs to somebody else or some other race, that could cause some issues. If you out of bounds and you step into, you know, the Asian side or you step into the black side and you don't mind your own, it's a problem. So contrary to what other people are saying, you know, that this, they're just in there and they're having fun and or whatever it is, like it's not, bro. It's a place where there's a lot of demons are there for sure. There's emptiness there, there's loneliness, there's suicide, and people are, you know, even in a point where it's like they cause death by suicide, meaning like I can't kill myself, so I'm gonna do crazy stuff to make y'all kill me. Like there's that too, and that's how they handle depression too, and loneliness and emptiness. So it's a lot, bro. It's a lot.
So you're wrestling, you're feeling empty, you are practicing Islam, you're trying everything. Your release day comes. Do you feel like I'm ready for the world, or what are you feeling like when you exit those gates?
If you want me to be real, I had a crazy intrusive thought. So, you know, I was ready. I had my date and it was coming. And I was like, you know what? I think I should just pop off right now and stab somebody. Because I'm a 2-strike felon. If I catch my last strike, then I'll just get washed up. Right? And that was because I was so afraid. Because what happened with the same dude, he actually was, you know, Muslim, and he got out. He got out, and he was the most respected dude in there. He was most organized. He was mature spiritually, mentally, all that. And he said, I'm never gonna come back to this place. Bro, he said that, and like 8 months after his release date, he was back.
Dang.
So that's when I knew it was over for me. I'm not even half the man this dude is. I'm gonna die in here, or I'm gonna die in the streets. So I lost all hope, bro.
You were in self-sabotage mode.
I was
right?
like, I'm good,
Wow.
And of course, my homies were like, nah, and I talked to my homies about this, and they're like, bro, you got to get out, bro. There's a lot of money. And at that point, there was like, weed and things coming in now, and people were making money. So that was something I tried to hold on to.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I did get out, I tried to fly straight. I applied everywhere, bro. I sat down with the homies and they were helping me with everything. But that little box that says,
felon,
right? Felon, and you got to tell them what you did.
Yeah.
It just wasn't working. And, I didn't get no love. Nobody called me back. So I was mad at that. I said, see, I knew it. I knew it, man. Like something I did when I was 12 and 16, they're not even going to give me, I did my time. They're not even going to give me a chance. So you know what? I was like, F it. I'm going to do what I want to do. So I immediately told my homies to plug me in. They plugged me in, started making like 10,000, then 20,000, then 30, then 40,000 a month. And again, I turned all of that into snot, basically doing drugs and women and buying cars, living in a Penty, going to Vegas every week, just crazy stuff. And, it just, again, did not solve the issue of emptiness inside of my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't try, every one of the five senses, taste, see, smell, touch, hear, like nothing is giving you a sense of value, of purpose or worth. What is your day-to-day looking like? Where are you getting to the end of yourself? How's that coming about?
So I think I was just, empty. And I was like, again, self-sabotage mode. I'm like, I'm just going to die. So YOLO lifestyle, right? Like I'm going to just do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And I don't care. And I was literally just existing. I felt like I was like having an outer body experience every day. Like it wasn't me. I could be in a room with 100 homies because we're deep, but I feel like I'm still alone, So I was just like waiting to die. And I kept having that thought, oh, it's because you don't got enough money. Even though I'm making 30K, I'm like, man, I don't have enough. So we planned actually to rob somebody, well-known drug dealer in our area. And yeah, the plan went sour basically because I was supposed to go to the right. He was supposed to go to the left, my homie. I went to the right, but he stepped in front of me. So then I just went to the left. 3 shots rang out and my friend got shot. So if he didn't step in front of me, I would have been shot that day. He died in my arms. And so that just, like, I thought I was depressed, but then now I had survivor's guilt on top of that because I was like, yo, that's your fault. And so that was plaguing me, and I was doing more drugs to, self-medicate. And then my mom actually in prison, she received salvation when I was in prison about 3-4 years before I got out. So she started coming with the verses, and I was like, man, stop talking to me because first and foremost, we're Chinese, right? Yes, I'm Muslim, but I'd rather be Muslim than Christian, right? I would have these thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And so I just looked down on my mom. I was like, Mom, you're like religion hopping right now. You're going from Buddhism and Taoist Buddhist to now Christian, this white God, I didn't know anything about it, right?
Yeah.
So, and I didn't listen to her, but she came during that time when my homie died. Within a span of a week, 3 people passed away that were very dear to me. The homie that died in my arms. There was another kid who hung himself in prison, sent me a cryptic kite, right? Telling me, hey, bro, when I see you, think about me, see you in the mountains, crazy stuff, and I didn't know. 3 days later, he hangs himself. And then we have my other homie who I courted, youngster. I love him, just like me. Broken home, same, speaking Mandarin, all that. He gets shot, freeway shooting, basically headshot, dies on the scene. So, within a week and a half span, that's when I was just like, bro, death for sure is around the corner for me. I'm about to die, and it's just horrible. But again, I didn't have no outlet. So I'm like, I'm gonna just go deeper, right? But my mom, she said something that really unlocked everything. She said, it would be really sad, Johnny, if you were born into this life, growing up in the PJs, and you have nothing. Your homies are all dying, and then you then die. And then not only that, but end up in a place of like eternal damnation. You know, she was saying hell, but like in a nice way, right? And I was like, it made me think. It stopped me. It kind of snapped me out of it for a second. That's the first time I actually thought a little bit about my future, thought about my life, thought about, is there something more than life to just messing around and being a knucklehead like this? You know, is it more than sleeping with this woman and doing drugs and all that? It's got to be more than this.
Yeah.
And you know, after that, she brought me to church basically.
So
And,
mom planted the seed.
100%.
And what made you decide to go to church?
So she actually had her car broke down. So I didn't decide. She was in San Bernardino.
Yeah.
She was like, you know, her car was overheating, and she's like, she was a deacon. My mom speaks 3 different languages: English, Mandarin, and Korean. She grew up in Korea, but we're Chinese. So she you know, she was like calling me frantic. My brother was still in prison. My brother also did 14 years. So 2 bad kids, you know. And she called me. My dad was still doing his alcoholic stuff, being a bad husband and all that. So she only had me. And I was like, you know what? She's an hour and some change away. Let me do this for her, you know. So I just drove to her, picked her up, and I told her in the car, Mom, I'm not staying at this church. I know what they're about. They're going to try to, you know, indoctrinate me and all this stuff. So she's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, I have to translate. I'm late for like this thing. So I take her to church, and I roll down the window, bro, and I smell my favorite food, which is black bean noodles, right? and being a prisoner, bro, that's the one thing is mail, commissary, right, and food, basically. So that, to me, when I smelled that, I was like, dang, this smells fire. But I was trying to keep it gangster. I was like, man, I don't care, you know? So the pastor was like, hey, Johnny, good to meet you. You know, I heard a lot about you. And he's Asian, right? And he's like, we made some homemade black bean noodles. And he said, 1 second. He said, would you like for me to package some for you and send you on your way? And I felt like, being Asian, bro, we break bread. Like, food, family style is a thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, that's hella disrespectful if I'm just going to take his stuff and then leave.
Man doing highway shootings, but feels like, I don't want to be disrespectful with this. That's crazy.
Crazy,
but
right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Crazy, bro. So I'm just like, you know, okay, it was just something in me. And I feel like it was obviously God was like, at that moment was like, you should go and pay your respects. Because this dude didn't seem like the dude who was preachy. I mean, he was clean cut, wear a suit and all that, but he didn't force anything on me, right? And so I went in, I ate the food. It was amazing, right? And I just sat there, and I felt like a lot of love from them just through the food, which was crazy. And then he proceeded to ask me some questions, right? He's like, do you know what sin is? And, you know, are you a sinner? And then I felt like that was a loaded question. So I was like, man, of course I'm a sinner, bro. Look at me. I'm tatted down head to toe, you know, and I know, like, in the body, in the Bible, it says your body is a temple and you don't do all that. And then he blew me away by saying, that's not true. He said, sin is not, you know, committing crimes and doing evil things. Those are symptoms, byproducts of the original sin. And I was like, what? So I never heard it like that. You know, we had prison chaplains, we had priests, we had, you know, chapels in prison. And, you know, you would go there from time to time just to get time out of your cell and stuff like that. But everyone was always telling you, sin is an action and you must repent. You got to do good, right? And you got to try in your heart. God knows your heart. But he said, like, nah, you're born evil. Just like you didn't choose to be Chinese, you were born that way. It was inherited, your father, his father. He said, Adam sinned. You know Adam and Eve. I said, yeah. And the whole world came from them. Adam's sin bare Cain. Cain was the first murderer. Nobody taught him how to murder. There was a seed of sin planted inside of them through the fall. And that passed down to you. So just like you didn't choose to be a sinner, you didn't choose to be, or just like you didn't choose to be Chinese, you didn't choose to be a sinner. And that's why you're feeling that emptiness. And that rocked my world. I'm like, wait, how does he know I'm empty? Because I ain't never shared that with nobody. So I was like, he knows something.
He put language to what you were experiencing.
He humanized it. And he said, what you're doing in the life that you lived, even though everybody's saying is abnormal, atypical, is normal.
Yeah.
I was like, what? So I'm normal? He said, no, you're not what people say you are. You know you're perfect. I said, I'm perfect. what? And I was like, I'm not perfect, Pastor. You may not know the things that I did, bro. Like, and he says, no, I'm just like you. I said, wait, hold. You're this clean-cut pastor from Korea, never gangbanged in your life, looked like you wouldn't hurt a fly, but you're telling me you're the same as me. And then he said, in your standard and my standard, sure, we got differences, but under the standard of God, we all fall short. And I said, dang, that's facts. So he said, I'm a sinner and you're a sinner too. If I stand in front of God as a sinner and you stand in front of God as a gang member sinner, we're both going to hell. So he said, you know, you really got to think about that, Johnny. Like, you're a person who trusted yourself all of your life. How did that work out for you? You ended up in prison, gangs, empty, all that, right? I said, yeah. Have you ever tried to attempt suicide? I said, of course. He said, and it's because you were this imperfect person. You're trying to be perfect, got your GED, did all these other things, he said, and you kept falling short. So when you keep failing as an imperfect person, trying to produce perfection, of course you're going to end up empty because you keep failing. So you live in this roller coaster lifestyle, he said. Sin and then repent. Happy and then sad. Because when you're doing good, you're happy. Yeah. Then you mess up, sad, happy, sad, happy, sad, happy, sad, and then empty. And I was like, yo, this dude is literally dissecting my heart. And nobody has ever said, and he's not even from America. You know, we're speaking through translators right now. So it wasn't even,
this is all translated conversation.
Translated.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's hitting me in a way where it's like, what? And so I never heard that before. All the books that I read, all that, never.
First of all, shout out to the translator, whoever that was. Shout out to that translator, facts, man. Bro. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So your mind is blown. Like, is this your gospel moment? Is this what is happening to you internally right now?
So yeah, I felt a inkling of hope, which I've never felt. I felt like, yo, this dude, he knows something. And this is why people have mentors. Because before I'll be like, nah, you're your own master. What you talking about? Nobody know you like you. You got to lead your own life. That's what the world teaches you, right? You got to trust your thoughts, follow your gut. You know what I'm saying? You're the master of your own destiny. But I started to see like, yo, this dude knows me better than me. And I was like, this is crazy. But wait, let me, you know, and I was having that internal struggle. Like, should I listen to this dude? You know, what is he going to say next? Like, I was just kind of waiting for him to give me that, like, you know, but moment, right? But you got to follow the commandments, but you got to convert, but whatever it is, he didn't talk about none of that. He said, you know, he led with, I'm just like you, right? And I'm a person who, when I trust my thoughts, I also fall into lust. I also fall into drugs and alcohol and things like that. But that's why I learned to distrust my thoughts. And that was so profound because as gang members, as the world in general, as these motivational speakers and everything you see on social media is always believe in yourself, follow your heart. But when I did that, my heart was wicked. Yeah. My mind, I have intrusive thoughts. So of course I'm going to live up and down roller coaster.
That's right.
So he was saying, you got to learn to distrust your thoughts. And then of course I asked him, well, then what do I trust if I don't trust my thoughts? He said, that's why God gave us the word. Because think about it. He said, the word, even just a regular book, not even the Bible, the words don't change. They stay the same. So something that stays the same is trustworthy. But your thoughts, one minute you're happy, next minute you're angry. Yeah. It keeps changing. So he said, they lie to you, basically. It's deceitful. Yeah. You can't trust your thoughts. Yeah. And I was like, dang. So that kind of sparked a little bit for me to be like, maybe I need to get into this word. Because it's like, I don't know the word. So how do I combat it? And then he told me, right? He said, Satan, you know, there's a famous story, he says in the Bible, where Satan tempts Jesus. And I said, okay. And he says, do you know how Jesus fought him? He wasn't like, I rebuke you. He wasn't like, you know, levitating and, you know, having angels fight him. He said, it is written. And I was like, okay. And he said, as it is written, it is written, it is written. So Johnny, when Satan comes with your thoughts, because you want to live, but Satan tells you to die, right? Then the only way to fight that is through the Bible, what is written. And if you don't know the Bible, he said, that's like stepping in the ring with Mike Tyson. You're going to get demolished, bro, with no training. So he said, I hope that you can learn the word. And then after that, he led into something crazy. He said, you know, you're perfect, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not perfect. He said, let's think about this for a second, right? You look at yourself, you're not perfect, but the Bible says you're actually perfect, and not only temporary, but forever. And I said, show me, right? You got to show me the paperwork, right? The receipts. And he showed me Hebrews 10:14, which said, for by one offering he hath perfected forever them that are sanctified. King James Version. And so I was like, what does this mean, right? I didn't really read the Bible like that, right? And he said, let's break it down. So he said, one offering. Who is this one offering? Jesus Christ. Everybody knows that. I said, that's true. I know that Jesus came to die for our sins. Atheists know that. But he said, through that one offering, he has perfected. He said, yes, you have a GED education, but even you know what tense is perfected in. And I said, past tense. He said, so if it's past tense, it means it's already completed. You're already perfect. I was like, what? And he said, temporarily or forever. And it says forever, right? Perfected forever. So he says, nothing is forever in this world, but eternally is forever, right? Eternity. So you're perfect eternally, and then you're also sanctified, past tense, which means made holy. But the issue, he says, is your thoughts tell you no. Your thoughts tell you you're a gang member. Your thoughts tell you that you're never going to change. Your thoughts tell you you're empty and you're lonely and you're depressed and you should live however you want. And your thoughts tell you you're going to go to hell. But the word of God that never changes tells you that you're righteous, perfect, forever, and holy. Which one are you going to trust today? So he challenged me. And I was like, dang, if I trust my thoughts, I'm going to live miserably. But if I trust his word that doesn't change and is from God, then maybe that's the smarter route, right?
Yeah.
So when I trusted that, it was as if like this weight was lifted off of my shoulders, bro. Because I knew I was going to hell for the things that I did that I'm not proud of.
Yeah.
But he said, you know, where do perfect people go? And I was like, dang, they go to heaven. So for me, I was like, it was almost like comical to me. I'm like, I'm a gang member. I did crazy, heinous things.
Yeah.
And this is the first person that ever told me that through Jesus, I'm going to heaven. That was crazy.
You hadn't stepped into your perfection. You hadn't accepted it.
Yeah.
And Christ was like, here it is.
Yeah.
But you were like, nah, I'm too messed up.
Right.
I can't.
Right.
And this is the first time someone made it clear, nah, all you got to do is, it's right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So through that, I was just so thankful. And I was like, man, and you know, my mom was next to me. She was crying.
Oh, man.
Yeah, she was crying. And I was tearing up too. And then I said, but I just got one question, Pastor. What about my sins? Like, what? Because I remember my sins. You know, I know God, Jesus washed them. But he said, well, he washed all of your sins. And what does all of them mean? And I said, and I said, like past, present, future, every single one, right? And he said, yeah. He said he didn't do a half, you know, like, half job, right? He washed everything.
Yeah.
But and then of course I was like, so then I could, what's gonna stop me from sinning however I want now? Then I could just be like, yo, I'm perfect. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna sin however I want. You know. And then he said, I'm married, for example, right? Why did I get married? He said, to deepen my relationship with God. And I said, sure. I'm sorry, deepen my relationship with my wife. He said, and he says, so prior to me meeting my wife, if it was a beautiful woman walks up to me, he's like, I can date her because I'm single. But now that I'm in a relationship, even if one of these beautiful sisters comes up to me and she's my type, let's say, and she wants to do things, sinful things, lustful things, can I be like, yeah, let's do it? No, I'm going to think about my wife because of our relationship. And because of her, even if I want to, I can't. Do you understand? And I said, okay. And he said, so my point is, why do we receive salvation? Why did God die for you and purchase you with his blood to have communion with you, to have a relationship with you? Are you just going to, you know, sin when Satan comes and tells you, hey, let's do this? No, you'll think about your Father. And I was like, dang. So he conceptualized it for me to a point where I understood it. And he's like, that's why, Johnny, you got to deny your thoughts, because sin doesn't just come out of anywhere. People try to solve the behavioral aspect. But behavior comes from thoughts, which bleeds into your heart, and then it affects behavior.
That's good.
So it's like, you know, thoughts, lustful thought will give you lustful feelings, and then lustful action. People trying to fix the action, but they're not cutting it at the root.
Yo, you broke it down like this is what he told you, which is true. But at the same time, you re-delivered it in a way that we can tell it's ingrained in you. right? Like, this is what you do now.
Yeah.
And like, I just want for real. Like, I just feel like, I think it's important. I know you've heard this before. I'm sure you hear it all the time, but I think it's important to reiterate the fact that you was built for this, bro. Like, no, for real. Like, I was telling my on my Instagram, talking about Samson and how Samson came from the Sorek Valley. Sorek means grape. And it's like, why did God put the man who wasn't allowed to drink from the grapevine in the middle of Grapevine Valley? And it was because he was like, it's like a message for us to say, yeah, I don't want you to leave the world.
Yeah.
I want you in it to affect it with everything that I've shown you and taught you.
Facts.
And man, like, you are the living, breathing testament of everything that you've been through. God uses beauty for ashes. Like, he just takes it and says, yo, I'm going to shape this in a way. Because, bro, I've been looking for Johnny Chang's forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been like, man, where are the dudes who, the ladies who, you know, I was doing a, what do you call it? Back on Fig podcast with T-Rail.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, he said, man, I got these prostitutes who are coming in. Do you want to be on the podcast with them, or do you want to do your own thing? And I was like, let me do my own thing, because I don't know how this is going to go.
Right.
But I wanted to talk to those ladies afterward.
Yeah.
And I got to talking to one, and it was like, you know, the world would look at them and be like, yo, y'all, wow, y'all on Fig, y'all on some crazy stuff. And one of them is, you know, a famous rapper's daughter, low key. But
that's wild. Yeah.
But she said, man, I need the gospel, so I want to tap in. And it's just like, if there's no Johnny Changs in those spaces and places, and that you could reach somebody who's straight from the suburbs, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's people who wouldn't be able to re-articulate everything you said.
Right.
How have you seen God use that, like, your whole life experience, this moment of transformation for you?
Yeah.
Like, how have you seen God go from one moment of, like, the pastor shares this truth with you to like now?
Yeah. I mean, God has really blessed everything that I've been doing. And I think it's because of the relatability, right? I was just told, like, you just have to share the gospel. But I've learned that God doesn't want us to push it onto people. Yeah. Rather, he needs relatability first, because everybody, because of Satan, how he's groomed us from birth, put up these walls that it's hard to break down. You know, and they themselves don't even want to have walls like that. There's many of us who are frustrated that we're frustrated, or angry that we're angry. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's because Satan has weaved and ingrained that inside of us. So we have to kind of unlearn a lot of that stuff. Yeah. So I've learned, like, because I've been there, like, I don't like people preaching all up in my ear, and you know what I'm saying? Like, and judging me for this, that, and the third, when they themselves have a log in their eye type stuff. So I've learned, like, I only share my testimony. And it's like it's like us Asians are good for all you can eat buffets, right? So we just like, I'm gonna give you what it is, and you take what you need. But in this way, it weaves into them, and they feel that authenticity because the frequency of, like, being real is felt universally, right? So I feel like people truly need to hear the gospel, but not in a way that we've been taught, where it's like, push it onto them and break their arm, even if you got to save them type stuff. That's good. Rather, it's like, no, I'm going to be relatable, right? Like, we hung out, right? And we went and ate Heidi Lao and you know, all that.
Yo, you put me on, bro. That was my first time having that.
Right. Yeah.
You put me on. Robot bringing me food in the whole nine. It was crazy, y'all.
Yo.
But anyway,
But yeah, so, you know, but never pushed it on, right? Like, you're Christian, I'm Christian. Everybody has a different walk, but I feel like we all have that interconnection through sin, right? Interconnected. So we just gotta continuously be real with people. Like, you cannot cast out hate with hate. You cannot. You gotta cast out despair and hate with hope and love. Yeah. So in order for me to plant, I just tell them, listen. I invite people to this dialogue. Most of the time, it's a monologue. You know what Jesus did for you? Jesus, like, you're talking at people. You feel me? But for me, I'm just like, listen. This is what Jesus did for me, and that's what God has done in my life, right? Yeah. I just tell them what God has done in my life. Yeah. And I've felt depression, loneliness, anger, whatever, and I become vulnerable for them so that when you're vulnerable to people,
Yeah.
they then have this launching pad of like, okay, I got a safe space now where I could just be vulnerable too. Cause we're all, especially as men, bro, like
Yeah.
we got to show that we're bravado and we're men. And
Yeah.
but it's like, nah, we go through stuff too. And it's
Dog,
cool.
I love that because we're relational people.
Right.
And like you said, it's like, man, the heart is soil. Don't jackhammer the seed in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the soil may be rocky. You may have to get some rocks out of there. You know what I mean? And everyone's just like, Yeah. And I think that's probably why that first interview went so crazy viral.
Yeah.
Was because I didn't like it snuck up on me. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm just sitting there like, man, this story is incredible. What he been through, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, yo, I don't know if dude know the Lord or not, but then I'm like, nah, he know the Lord, you know, but I can imagine somebody who's far from God watching that, not feeling judged, not feeling like they couldn't relate to you, but feeling like, man, he's telling my story, but the ending is different.
Right.
And I think that's what's beautiful about what you do is, man, you're letting people know the ending is different.
Amen.
People have a lot of questions and curiosities about some of the places you've been, some of the things you've done. But man, like you said, like the pastor told you, man, whether if you've been locked up for 15 years or you just looking at porn on the internet, like
sin is sin.
Sin is sin.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you talk about like you and your father's relationship and just like the tension y'all had and the trauma that it had on you. What's that look like after your relationship with the Lord?
So much better. So pastor told me basically to apologize to my father. Me being the victim, apologizing to the aggressor. Bananas, bro. It didn't make sense to me. Yeah. But I realized that we were all interconnected through the struggle. How I saw my father was kind of like, he was like this ship in a storm, basically. And it was getting rocked by this crazy, you know, waves, and he got smashed into the rocks, right? And I realized that, bro, I'm the same boat. I'm in the same boat, right? And I'm also we're both fighting this storm, which is Satan. Yeah. And so I was able to humanize my father that, hey, just like I struggle with trusting my thoughts and having a crazy past and all the trauma, my dad was the same way. So we're actually more similar than we are different. He just, you know, was masking everything through drinking. I was doing it through gangbanging. I was doing it through, you know, through other means. But the end result was still emptiness, loneliness, depression, and being without God. Yeah. So I apologized to my father, bro. I said, I'm sorry, you know, for being a horrible son, ruining your American dream because he's an immigrant. And bro, he stopped and then he started crying and he said, no, I'm sorry. I came and I, you know, ruined your life, beat your mom, beat you. You know, large part of why you're in prison and in gangs is probably my fault. And I'm sorry, son. And, you know, 20 some odd years of pain, bro, it just dissipated, bro. We cried our eyes out. And now me and my dad comes to church. He donates to the church. I mean,
that's crazy.
Yeah, he's going to be at my live event on September 14th, you know. So it's amazing how just a simple forgiveness basically really bleeds into everything. You know, so yeah, he's got his own, he's saved now, got his own testimony.
That's crazy, man. God is good. It's clear, like, you know, God has gifted you. I know you read a lot when you got in prison. I know you studied, but you communicate well. Were you a good communicator then? Is that something that you grew into? Like, how did that all transpire?
Yeah. So I was never a good communicator. Yeah. I can attribute it to obviously God giving me the heart to communicate well. But I've noticed that what I've learned was the mentors around me have always taught me one thing, and I think this is pivotal and the foundation of Christianity, was to think about other people first. So when I'm sitting here and I'm communicating and I'm listening, first off, you have to have receptive skills, meaning you got to work on listening before you speak, because otherwise it becomes a monologue, right? So I always try to hear not what that person is saying, but where is the position of their heart? For example, if somebody's like, I read the Bible 40 times and, then you already know immediately they have like an egotistical, prideful heart. It's not a judgment. It's more of like, okay, I see where he's coming. He's leading with that.
Yeah.
Why is he leading with that?
Yeah.
So I've learned to think about others above myself.
That's good.
And that's why I don't get into debates, because I'm like, okay, let's see where they're coming from. If this person is saying, how do you know God wrote the Bible? That's proof that they think that they're smarter than God. It's not, they're saying that because why does that even actually matter? To them, it matters because their heart is like, okay, I can figure out God. Yeah. So show me, prove to me that, then I'll believe, which is not faith. You get what I'm saying?
That's good.
So we learn how to communicate in this way, where Proverbs literally tells you, be slow to speak, quick to listen, right?
Yeah.
So I've just learned to always be like, all right, let me go and give them the benefit of the doubt, because there's always a human nature underlying. People like to process and externally process, right? They're just telling you everything.
Yeah.
But if you've learned to just listen, bro, you can never misinterpret silence. You can never misconstrue it. You know what I'm saying? So
that's a bar.
Yeah. So that's what I've learned.
That's hard, bro.
Yeah.
We do this other segment. I'm gonna get to this other segment real quick, but before I do that, some of the stuff you talking about, because I know there's probably a lot of guys watching this now who, we just are not, men don't get to the issues of the heart.
Yeah.
We don't communicate all that type of stuff. We think it makes us tough. We think it means we're not a man.
Right.
But we talking to somebody who done shot at folks. We talking to somebody who done hard time, and you can still speak naturally about your emotions, about the heart, about the love for God.
Sure.
What would you say to guys out there who, are trying to process all of this?
Sure. I would say it's okay. It's okay to feel like that, because I was there, and it's normal to feel like that. But there's also a reasoning why we feel like that, because Satan doesn't want y'all to open up so that he could keep you in that confinement. You know what I mean? Yes, I've been to prison, and maybe not everybody has been to prison, but we're all prisoners of something, right? Prisoners to sin, prisoners to addiction, whatever it is, right? Lust, jealousy, envy, whatever. So at the end result, again, we're all interconnected through sin. And that's why you had mentioned, getting to the issues of the heart, right? The root. I built a community called Core of the Heart, literally, because we get to that, and you can remain anonymous. We do Discord for free, and so it's just, we need community. Women have community, men have community too, but through sports or whatever. But we need these types of Christian communities where it's gospel centered, and we're able to truly be vulnerable as men and be like, listen, I am struggling with this, and not have that judgment, and have verses, scripture to help us climb out of that. And that's what I've dedicated my whole life to, was building community. That's why we're doing the events, is because I want to bring the community together and just grow together, because man, the youth nowadays as well is feeling that. And there's no guidance. Yeah. It's all, the social media is their guidance. Google is their teacher. It's crazy, So yeah.
That's dope. All right, we're gonna tap in to the segment we call Underwater, man, where we throw people underwater. You know what I'm saying? It's the deep end, and it's, you sink or swim, bro. I'm gonna throw the questions at you. You sink or swim. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? Let's see how you program. You know what I'm saying?
Let's do it.
All right, so everybody, they go to prison. They say, man, I ain't turning down nothing. I'm a tough guy. Whoever want to fight, let's fight. I ain't finna roll it up.
Right.
But I know there's some scary moments.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Tell us about a scary moment for you where you was like, man, I don't know about this.
Yeah, the first week in.
That's for B-Side subscribers right there. That's what that answer's for. So if you become a B-Side subscriber, you get access to that answer plus way more, man. There's so much content, so many tools, so much community behind that wall. Become a subscriber, join the family. I appreciate the work you do, man.
Sure,
it's super dope, man. We honored to have you.
Appreciate
What you got coming up next for anybody who wants to know, or you know, you talked about the community that you started, but anything else that you want people to know about?
I'm doing a live event in LA, September 14th, depending on when this airs. But I want people to pull up. It's like 400 people. you know, seating. We're pretty much at capacity, but
Yeah.
we can still open up some more stuff, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, we're gonna do a live show. We're doing a sermon there. My head pastor, the one who saved me, is gonna do like 30-minute speech.
Crazy.
My family's gonna be there. There's gonna be music, refreshments. So yeah, that's on September 13th in LA, Glendale area. And yeah, I'm just doing Bible studies too. We go from Genesis to Revelations every Saturdays, 12 p.m.
Follow this man online, man. Follow him on the gram. He stay with the heat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so, you know, just that. And I'm going to be traveling.
Okay.
And hopefully me and, you know, you will be doing some more stuff.
Oh, we got to.
bro.
We got to. We got to do like a whole prison tour.
Yeah, bro.
You know what I'm saying? That would be crazy.
Yeah.
I'm putting it out there right now. If you watching this, get us to do it.
Yeah,
you know what I
for
mean?
real, for
But
real.
man, love it, bro. Thank you, man. Appreciate you for everything, my guy.
Appreciate you, bro. Thank
Respect,
you, bro.
Yeah, man. That's hard.